Go Who's and welcome to the 434 Defense Podcast. My name is Deuce Prince. I'm a Charlottesville, Virginia native, lifelong UVA football fan, and former college offensive lineman. And with me today is a guest who I have been so excited to have on and collaborate with, the creator and person behind Gametime Growth, one of the best sports business content platforms out there on Instagram, on TikTok, doing all the different things. My man Ahmed. How are you doing, man?
Hey man, I'm doing well. That is by far the best hyping up I've ever seen. I'm ready to run through a wall for you,
Oh,
Deuce.
I'm Flava Flav when we have guests on. And man, it's so great that we were able to make the schedules work before one of Virginia's most interesting games from not just an X's and O's perspective, but from a 30,000 foot perspective up against the Mike Lombardi, Pablo Torre, North Carolina Tar Heels. I'm glad we actually did not do the episode
It
yesterday.
was so good. When I saw it, did you listen to it by the way?
I listened to the whole thing.
I was like, this is perfect. We need to do something today. Fantastic. Oh, I loved it. Oh,
I,
it's perfect
I
timing.
whatever divine providence is out there was looking out for us by making sure that we talked about it after. Because imagine we talked about everything that we were going to talk about today,
And then this
and then
happened.
Pablo Torre drops the Mike Lombardi episode.
No. Oh my God. I'm just sheer luck, really, honestly, just not be available yesterday. So
But I mean, it's kind of a tale of two cities right now between the oldest rivalry in the South. You know, Virginia on the back of a anonymous donor, which I don't think people really know about. The current influx of money into UVA football is from an anonymous guy.
yeah,
There's not a Phil Knight, there's not a Michael Jordan or Jordan Brand like some other schools have. This was very much a influx of cash that Virginia was not necessarily expecting or planning on, and has now resulted in a program that was perceived to be in a pretty tough spot.
yeah,
Now all of a sudden being mentioned in the same breath as schools like Georgia Tech and Miami, when that was not the expectation
it's
going into this
insane.
year.
Absolutely, it's so insane. Just the trajectory of the team has just skyrocketed, and again, it's like anonymous, which is like really, really crazy. I think the same thing happened with uh, like UCLA. I think had like a big gift, and it was done by
Yes.
like a collective where there were no names given or anything like that. I think there was a name that was attached to it, but it was like an anonymous sort of like pseudonym or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, not to say that the non-anonymous or the prominent donor strategy doesn't work, because Mark Cuban has been at the heart of IU's growth on the football field, and you know, certain situations like that, or Miami where now the money flow is now legal and they're having a pretty solid year. But the anonymous donor schools are doing pretty good. Obviously UCLA has completely turned around their whole trajectory. They went from being possibly the worst job in all of Power Five football to now seemingly very attractive.
It's been it's like again like this is one of those things where I think you remember when all of this stuff was going to come up and there were like a bunch of like sort of like celebrity coaching hires made that were essentially for uh a getting recruits and then B also just sort of like bolstering that booster line where it's like hey we're going to have we need big names in order to attract big money and we're kind of seeing this kind of like right now right where it's like these big like a lot of money's flown into some of these flown into these colleges and it's totally turned around their trajectory that you wouldn't have seen otherwise if this stuff wasn't you know
Absolutely, and
out last.
it's happening at schools where they don't have a statue of a coach, which I
Yeah,
think is a good barometer. You know, if you're at a Vanderbilt or an Indiana or a Virginia or some of these other sleeping giants of college football, you
yeah.
know, when you have a university community that is very excited to see what you're building and not comparing it to a past era, I think that's a tremendous thing to have in your back pocket there for you.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. Uh, So here's the thing. It's on my mind. I did want to just dive into UNC for a minute, and I wanted
Yes,
to
I
ask
did. That's
you.
part of what I wanted to do with
And
you.
I like, speaking of all this money and speaking of going to Saudi Arabia,
Oh my
uh,
God.
what did you think of? What's your initial impression, like, of how Pablo Torre just broke down Mike Lombardi's career in his podcast?
I think Pablo Torre is one of the first people to go publicly with what a lot of the scuttlebutt around the industry is.
Okay.
You know, Mike Lombardi is a very divisive figure.
Mm-hmm.
I think, it's very funny when you have that name in the football industry
Yeah.
and you are one of, I believe, two Lombardis in the football world that are not related to Vince.
Right.
And, you know, I find it interesting because part of me thought this was going to work.
Okay.
And by gonna work, I was expecting them to be the most difficult 6-6 team to play in the country.
Right.
I was expecting them to have a bunch of really eager dudes on special teams or guys that could make plays that were a little bit above their ability. I wasn't expecting 12-0 make the playoffs like some people were expecting just by virtue of a new coach and 70 new transfers, but I think this is the worst projectable outcome that we could have seen. Maybe not the worst because the worst would be no wins, but I think the media firestorm has dragged down a couple of wins that they've had.
Yeah. Okay. Here's what happened. So this is interesting because obviously, like, I didn't grow up around football. I don't have that sort of like insider generational knowledge, right? So at the beginning of the podcast, when I was hearing all this, I actually was like, okay, whatever, guys. Like, he's marketing himself. Fine. Some claim like is a little exaggerated or whatever.
Yeah.
And my then I think around minute six, my entire tower of belief around this guy just started like just crumbling away, right?
Yeah.
And it's it's really interesting to me because now, if I'm like the provost at UNC, or if I'm even like Bill Belichick, right?
Yeah.
One of the biggest branded things that we've come along here, and obviously it's like been beaten with a dead horse, is like the 33rd team, right? Like
Yes.
Lombardi's been saying it constantly.
They
It's just
wanted that to be the new Patriot way.
yeah, right, exactly. And I'm like thinking about it now. It's like, all right, you've had reports that have come out where they're not allowing Patriot scouts or at least limiting some sort of looks by the
Yeah.
Patriots into UNC. The Drake May thing, where Bill Belichick didn't allow I would say, arguably one of the most famous football alumni, Drake
Yeah.
May, right now, right? Um, to just not be sort of showcased or anything like that. Like the UNC wants to tout it, sort of thing. So if I'm a recruit and I now like listen to this podcast, right? I'm just kind of thinking this is just another like nail in the coffin as to why I wouldn't want to go here.
Yeah.
Why would I want to come here? Besides, if they're going to offer me like an amazing amount of money
Right.
that I wouldn't be able to sort of turn down, like I can't get this from Ohio State or I can't get this from UVA, right?
Right.
So it's just like I really would not be surprised if like next week it comes out that like maybe Mike Lombardi is left. But obviously Belichick has so much control around that program. The guy basically gifted him, according to the podcast, a Super Bowl ring, like one of those
Right.
L4 rings, like the class ring type of rings,
Yes.
when he was not even with the team.
The politics of that are wild.
Yeah, so I just like, would it surprise me if he stays on? No. Would it surprise me if he left? No. But honestly, it just sort of goes to show it's like, it honestly feels more and more like a grift every single day. Like to somebody who isn't involved in football, who isn't involved in uh, boosters or anything, who just has sort of like a cursory knowledge of this, where I'm just like, these guys came in. He's the He's getting paid $1.5 million a year. Belichick's the highest
Yeah.
public employee in the country, in the state. It just feels incredibly more and more like a grift.
I mean, and the thing is that there are gems of decent football in the film, having watched their second half against Cal Berkeley. Like there were things that they were doing well. And, the thing that I came away with was if the football was bad, I think people did generally expect this to not be a competitive team off the rip.
Mhm.
What I
Okay.
think people were getting was they thought they were getting Bill Belichick, who was not going to try and be too out in the media or
Yeah.
on a lot of salacious page six type
Right.
shows.
Yeah.
Or, and I think if this team was just bad and Bill Belichick was just doing his normal kind of, man, I'm at this press conference because I have to. And Lombardi was still cheerleading on the sidelines for him and everything like that. And there wasn't all of this extra stuff. I think people would be just kind of all right with it.
Yeah.
This team wasn't very good last year. I mean, I love Mac Brown as someone who grew up in the Pac-12 and the Big 12. Like Mac Brown is a genuinely good guy, but that team wasn't very good. They lost very badly to a JMU team, and you can't do that in the
Right.
ACC.
Right.
So if this team was just bad and there wasn't all of the other stuff, I think people who are on the football side, like I am, really would have been okay with it. Like it just is what it is. You got to rebuild that program.
So let me ask you a question, and I agree with you here, and that's exactly what I was thinking about. Where it was like, if it's just a bad team, because people didn't expect them to be good, it
Yeah.
was a sort of a whatever recruiting class. But again, it's really the salacious stuff, right?
Yeah.
So let me, I guess, let me ask you a question with regards to some of the things that I've read, because I've been wanting to ask you this for a little while now.
Yeah.
When we're talking about NFL versus college, right? And we're talking about coaching dynamics.
Hmm.
Really seems to me that like some of the stuff that's come out where he has like a closed door to parents, a closed door to boosters or anything like that.
Yeah.
Comparatively speaking, I'm just interested in knowing like is being a college coach is being a college coach more like having like way more like you need way more soft skills than you do like football knowledge? Because what I'm thinking is
Yes.
like a lot of the emphasis is like this guy's had a closed door to basically everything. Like you need to be somebody who's obviously engaged and has an open door policy to parents, to boosters, to all these other sort of like stakeholders that are not directly involved in the football field. So
Yes.
I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that.
So being an NFL head coach is very akin to being a Wall Street CFO or COO. You
Okay.
don't have as many of the soft public facing skills necessarily in your day-to-day responsibilities, but you have to be very on it in terms of your operational skills and what you know and how you can manage your team because the GM and the owner are going to do a lot of that stuff. A college football head coach, their soft skill requirements and the personality type needed, especially at a school like UNC, is more akin to the soft skills needed of a governor or senator. And the political power in that state is as such. You have to be that kind of personality that likes being in the public eye that much, which,
Hmm.
you know, there are only a couple of coaches in the world who could take a college job after being successful in the pros and not and kind of eschew those parts of the job. Bill Walsh did a fairly successful job at Stanford with
Hmm.
that. He would be the most positive outcome that we would have seen in this situation. But, in today's modern college football landscape, you really do have to have the ability to jive and to kind of massage messaging and these sorts of things in the same way that a politician does, because you are the highest paid state government employee instead of being paid by one or a couple, or in Green Bay's case, whatever amount of owners, that you have to keep that person happy.
Okay.
Whereas at a college place, you have to keep the fans, the board of regents, the provost, the president, the governor happy.
Perfect.
And it's a political job just as much as it is football. And then you add on top of that, like you were saying, the relationship with the parents, the relationship with recruits, all those sorts of things.
Okay, that's interesting because I'm looking at it now, like it kind of makes sense why like someone like Nick Saban may not have been successful in the NFL, or like how the entire like thing with Steve Spurrier went down. I had no idea because like what you're thinking is that, oh, this is on college, this is just at this level, but it's kind of the same job. And I don't think people or a lot of people have understood what a college coach is at a Power
Yes.
Five conference and what an NFL and who an NFL coach like they can be two completely different skill sets. So, I was thinking about Jim Harbaugh, who's been successful at sort of like every level, right? Whereas like,
Yeah.
this is actually like way harder. Whereas like this is not,
It's so hard.
yeah.
And I think Harbaugh's been strategic about where he's been,
Hmm.
being at Stanford and Michigan or the University of San Diego even before that. Those are places where football is a critical part of what they're doing.
Hmm.
But at the same time, the University of Michigan is a large brand in its own right, or, Stanford is a large brand in its own right. And in the NFL, he's great because all he thinks about is football.
Right. Right.
That's a person who focuses on football and just about nothing else.
Right. 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 So another thing that I wanted to sort of like get into, because like I don't know my ball. I can't talk to you about scheme stuff. But I do want to say I did not have colleges going abroad to the Gulf of all places to start looking for resources to recruit and build up a program. I was incredibly surprised that I did not have it on my bingo card. Whereas, like, I know sovereign wealth is going to enter this country through sports, like
Right.
in some way, fashion. I really thought it was going to be the NBA simply because of like the how global the sports become, especially when it comes to like playing in the NBA. Last few MVPs have been international players. That just makes sense. That hey,
Right.
this product can be now placed at the feet of the people working those regional offices in Europe, from the Gulf, from Norway, wherever.
Right.
I did not have it on my bingo card that you would have for so like a potentially a sovereign wealth fund invest into like a D1 school. I never ever
Right.
thought that that would. I also thought that there was some sort of like ethical or legal concerns there, but I feel like if you went there and UNC blessed it, then it would be a situation where, this is kind of sanctioned right now. But let me ask you a question, because I feel like, do you do you think that this is closer rather than like farther away? International investment into a college program.
I think it's closer because I think the geographical bias of the sport is changing because of NIL and because of the investment that's allowed into football programs.
Mhm.
There were 15 or 16 schools at most,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna use a blanket term here that does not necessarily apply to all these schools, but there were about 16 schools in America that were willing to cheat and cheat good enough to be good at college football on a national title scale year in, year out. It's
Right.
the SEC, Ohio State, Southern Cal, Michigan at times, Notre
Mhm.
Dame, Texas, and Oklahoma if you don't count them in the SEC.
I love how you just said SEC like it's just one big snake pit. Like it doesn't matter.
Even the bad schools in that conference were meeting people at the crossroads like Robert Johnson meet the devil with a $20,000 in a McDonald's bag.
Right.
But now that's all blown out of the water.
Right.
Schools with large endowments with very successful alumni bases can now openly say, "Hey, Stephen Ross, owner of the Miami Dolphins and fanatical University of Michigan football fan, would you like to help us beat Ohio State every year?" Or, or oh my goodness, why am I spacing on his name? Oh my goodness, the founder of Reddit.
Alexis Ohanian.
Yes, he's a UVA grad. Hey, would you like us to help finally beat Virginia Tech or all these alums in Vanderbilt, Indiana? So the geographical bias is now starting to go away a little bit. And so now you're getting a bit of a nationwide appeal because every school now ostensibly has a chance to be in it. And the part about internationally is now everyone in the nation can compete if you have the financial willpower, and the TV money is only going to grow because of that.
Right. Yeah.
College football's value in the Detroit media market or the Chicago media market is now only going to advance and grow as opposed to the sport kind of centering around Atlanta. Now it's kind of everywhere. And
Yeah.
so I think sovereign wealth does see that and sees that as a money-making opportunity. And, with now college athletes allowed to bet on professional sports, I think sovereign wealth is the least scrupulous, is one of the, is a little bit even more scrupulous than taking money from elsewhere, from betting companies.
I'm writing a piece right now, or I'm going to sort of bank it because I'm still doing a little bit of research on it, where we're talking about this and it's becoming less and less geographical. The tribes are expanding while college football is still really, really tribal. I feel like it's just going
The
to
Big
grow and
Ten
grow.
and the SEC states where they're represented, it's the 1860 election. Think about that.
So, like, one of the things I'm trying to speculate on, it's not speculation, but like, where is this all going, right? Are we
Yeah.
eventually going to have something where you start you start spinning off the college program as a whole, or you start spinning off pieces of the college program? You know, Mark Lazary, I think it was Mark Lazary.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't want to say the name. Whoever said it, where they were interested in potentially purchasing like a college program or a college team.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, this seems a little farther away than I would think. And I wasn't really thinking about that. Like a university would do something like that.
Right.
Um, and I can't seem to know where the direction is going to go, where it just feels like the university just feels like a loose affiliation at this point, or it's going to feel like a loose affiliation, right? I think
Yeah.
it's like a lot of times when I think about, Florida, I'm like, okay, yeah, like Gators, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's also the University of Florida and people attend,
Right.
right? And I feel like the gap between that notion is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger over time, where it
Yeah.
just might be, hey, spin these off and this is now a different league. What
I,
about you?
I I'm biased because I hope that doesn't happen, but that could
I
very
don't
well
want it
happen.
to happen either. These are college sports. These are student athletes. Go ahead, sorry.
I think we're in the golden age right now.
Okay.
I think we are in the golden age of parity and competitive balance, and it's only going to grow up until we get to that stage. The one thing I do want to start seeing is I actually would like to start seeing contracts. I think that would be a
Yeah.
massive positive benefit. I think a 2 year contract would be great.
Yeah.
I think if you play at the University of South Florida and Florida wants you to transfer to their program, the University of Florida should have to pay soccer style transfer fee
That's right.
to the University of South Florida. I think that would be a great parity move. I don't think that would necessarily happen because that would, I think that would give too much power to the players. And but I think contracts would be a critical part of going forward. But I think right now we are actually in a good place because I think we're being more honest about what the sport has been for at least 50 years at this point.
Awesome. Deuce, I got to jump.
All
I just
right,
talking to you. I'm going to talk to you
absolutely.
later. Okay?
Last question.
Yeah.
When you're in Charlottesville, Bodo's Bagels order, the bagel place in Charlottesville. I need your Bodo's order. Every guest has to answer on their first go
Oh,
around.
this is very interesting. Smoked salmon, capers, and onions, bro.
Ooh, an
Scallion cream
aristocrat.
cheese.
I like it. On what though? On what though?
Oh, poppy seed.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah.
There we go. Well,
I don't know, man. I love the briny. I love the, so that's just me though. So.
get your electrolytes in after a great night in Charlottesville. But man, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time. It's been awesome talking to you. Can't wait to have you on again and talk soon, all right?
All right, take care, dude. See you later. Bye.
All right, see ya. Thanks to Ahmed for being on, one of the best sports content creators that I've had a chance to work with and get to know. Absolutely love dealing with him. And man, Friday night going into this game, I am excited. I'm as excited as I have ever have been for a Virginia football game. This is our first true rivalry game of the year. If you are in the Chapel Hill area, show out, wear orange. Make sure you are distinct in that crowd of soft ass baby blue. And man, go Who's, beat the tar out of them damn heels. Thanks for watching, everyone. Subscribe, like, be sure to share with any other UVA fans you know, and have a great night and go Who's.